y'all. Welcome back to Not For Nothing. I'm your host, Cass B, and we are on episode 8 now, which is crazy. I say that every time. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so crazy, but it is. Time's flying. I just posted episode 7 about a week ago, and I'm back in the podcasting routine. I want to share a lot of my life with you guys, and I want to share what I'm walking through and learning, and just be open and transparent, because a lot of the times I get in these like headspaces or routines where I'm like, I don't need to share my life. Nobody wants to know. Nobody needs to know. Nobody, desires to hear what I have to say. And then my DMs are full of people saying, where did you go? Where did your podcast go? I love to listen to you, whatever. And I'm like, y'all really, I feel like y'all are like setting me up for something. But I'm back in the routine. And so if you have any requests or topics, please feel free to DM them to me, email them to me, text them to me if you know my number, anything like that. Please let me know, because I am really pulling at strings here. The thing that I know how to do is to share with you guys what's going on in my life, and it is kind of wild. So I only share bits and pieces of my life, though, because there are things in my life that I like to protect and I like to keep sacred. With that being said, obviously I'm not going to share every inch in detail of my life with you guys, but I want to share a lot of what I'm going through and how it can hopefully help you too. Obviously the setup is different. I'm not at the countertop where I usually am, where my microphone for TikTok sits every single day, and I'm back to the old school microphone that you guys, found me on, and obviously I'm on my couch. I just wanted a little bit more of a comfier feel for today's video. I have something, kind of a topic that I wanted to cover and just encourage you guys with, because I hear y'all all the time. I hear y'all, like, I listen to comments. I read all the time about you guys talking about singleness and, Cassidy, how do I know if he's the one? Cassidy, what do I do while I'm single? Cassidy, how do you find guys? Like, where am I not looking? All these things. I get it. I'm right there with you, and I say that so often, and I feel like y'all are like, okay, it's a broken record. We know that you're with us. But, like, for real, right? Like, I'm in a single season, and like I said in the last video, I'm open to dating, and that's something that I did not think would be on my mind, or even something that I would be open to at this point in my life, because of previous things and because of how hurt I've been in the past. But that's something that the Lord has healed and redeemed in my own life, and I'm very thankful for it, and I'm excited to see where that goes. But at the same time, being open to dating invites in this like ticking time bomb of like, okay, well, you've only got 5 or 10 years left until you're behind, or, well, you've only got a year or two until you meet your timeline, and it invites in everybody else's opinions. When you tell people like, oh yeah, I'm open to dating, then all of a sudden they're like, you're not meeting anybody, are you? And how's the dating life? The dating pool isn't great, is it? And it's like, why even open that door? I've made that mistake before of telling people intimate details of my dating life, and I'm like, I should not have told you that. And sure enough, it bites me later on, and I'm like, damn, that's just my gut. I shouldn't have told you. Because sometimes they're doing it out of good interest, right? They're like doing it to like, hey, I'm just checking in on you, how's such and such going? And it's like, I don't need the constant reminder or the questions or anything like that of like how something's going when it's not going well. But what happens when you protect your peace is that all of a sudden you're protecting this like innate thing that you have and that you're building. And we talked about that in the last video, so I won't go too far into it. But when you protect relationships and friendships and things that you're building on your own, you get to heal, you get to process, you get to kind of feel it all by yourself without having the outside's opinions or judgment or whatever on, that topic of your life. And so with that being said, today's kind of topic overarching of episode 8 is how to not settle while you're single. And that sounds like a big topic. It sounds like I'd have, a whole list of things to cover and topics to cover, but I really just want to start at the beginning, kind of encourage you guys, and then kind of just talk through what I've been learning and processing on my own. With that being said, that's the topic for today's video. Let's get into it. Roll the intro. Okay, we're actually going to have the episode right here because I feel like this is the most comfortable. So we're just going to do it right here.
How to settle while being single. How to lose a guy in 10 days.
So how to not settle while you're single. This has been something that I have had on my heart for, honestly, the past, 6-8 months, really. This is something that I've been mulling over, that I've been praying over. And honestly, I've been asking the Lord what that looks like. To me, I just thought let's just think about this for a second. How long have I actually been dating people for? Like, I genuinely feel like I've had a boyfriend since I've since I've been in like first grade, which is probably true. I don't think I dated anybody in first or second grade. I think I had my first boyfriend in fourth grade. Yeah, I definitely had crushes, I think, like in first, second, third grade, but I've always had my eyes on somebody. Don't ask why. Fourth grade, I had my first ever boyfriend, and his name was Logan, and he was so cute when he was in fourth grade. And so it's been fourth. So how old was I in fourth grade? I have no idea. So I've been dating for 14 years. Well, I mean, let's be real. Fourth grade, are we really counting that boyfriend? No. I've been in relationships on and off for 14 years. I'll claim that. So that's been a while. But let's realistically say I've been dating since, like, actually seriously dating somebody since, like, 2017, 2018. Like, that's when my first, like, serious relationship started. And I actually was like, wait a minute, we can go on dates now. Like, I didn't have to, like, have our parents drive us, whatever. So I'd say probably, like, 2017, 2016 is when I first started actually dating as a teenager, and those are when, like, the relationships I fully believe truly started. So I've been dating for a handful, almost 10 years, whatever that looks like. And I've thought this entire time, that settling as a Christian looked like he's an atheist, he's not Christian, he hates God, doesn't go to church, doesn't treat you well, always fighting, yells at you, is abusive. Like, that's what in my mind, in my pure-hearted mind, I thought, in my mind, I believed and I thought that that's what settling as Christians look like. I thought that since we are such strong Christians, it has to be the polar opposite of what we are. Like, settling does not look like an actual Christian dating another actual Christian and just being unequally yoked. Or it doesn't look like two Christians coming together and realizing, like, there's parts of you that I like, there's parts of you that I don't like, and I just don't think that we'd be well together. But we'll date anyways because I just really want a boyfriend. Like, I never even thought of that as settling. I just thought it was the polar opposite. And so as I entered being single in my 20s, that didn't happen until I was 23. And I started walking with the Lord and being single for the first time in 3.5 years. And I was like, wait a minute, like, this feels different. And it feels different, but also I don't know what to do. I don't know how to casually date. And I don't know how to not look for a long-term relationship right off the bat, because exiting, what they don't tell you, and this is taboo talk, like, nobody wants to come on here on a podcast and, like, talk about these kinds of things, but I'll talk about them. I'll be the guinea pig per usual. But nobody talks about how odd it is to exit a long-term relationship and expect long-term relationships out of casual dating. Nobody talks about that, right? Because you exit a relationship potentially being the mother in that relationship, right? Like, you do everything for that person. You're, like, taking care of that person. You're doing their laundry. You're taking care of their apartment. You're, X, Y, and Z with that person. And whenever you leave that person, whenever y'all break up, all of a sudden you're single and you're like, okay, wait, like, I can do stuff by myself and I don't have to take care of somebody else and it's only me and, whatever. And then all of a sudden you start casually dating and you're, like, expecting long-term dating attributes to be in a casual dating sense, and that's just not the case. And that's the part that I had a really hard time with, and I still am having a hard time with, of, like, how do I date casually? And dating casually has a bad connotation to it too, because it's like,
I'm not gonna say that. Well, I don't know. Can I say that? I don't know. Is hoe a bad word? I feel like hoe is a bad word, but also, like, I'm using it in the sense of, like,
you're not hoeing around. Like, you're not, dating around in a bad sense of, like, oh my gosh, like, she's sleeping around, whatever. Casual dating as Christians can be casual dating, right? But at the same time, healthy communication comes in hand. So, like, if you are casually dating, if you go on a date with somebody, if whatever, like, I feel like there needs to be that healthy communication to where it's like, hey, like, I really enjoyed that date with you. Do you have any intention of continuing to see me or not? Because then if not, me, in my mind, the way that I see it is, like, my long-term dating brain is like, okay, if you take me out on a date, like, we're going to start dating soon, because, like, that's the way that I interpret it. Because leaving a long-term relationship, I expect communication, I expect, all these things that I once had in that relationship, but I have to dial it back and be like, okay, wait a minute, like, I'm not in a long-term relationship. This other person that I'm starting to see is also not in a long-term relationship, and I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're up to. Are they dating other people? Are they, seeing other people, going on dates with other people? I have no idea. But also realizing that doesn't limit me to not doing the same, right? And casual dating is weird because, like, you need communication when you're doing that, because, like, are you actually locking in with this person, the other person isn't? Or do you have feelings for this person, the other person doesn't? Like, it's very confusing, and trust me, I fully get it. But I think communication in that sense comes into play. But realizing that once you exit a long-term relationship, you can't look for those long-term relationship characteristics in a potential short-term relationship or a casual dating relationship, you have to start from ground zero. You have to build it up, like the suspense, the slow burn, whatever you want to call it. Like, you have to steward that well, and that's something that I wasn't ready for or prepared for. Going back to the whole topic of like settling, that's what I assumed whenever I became single or whatever. I was like, okay, settling as a Christian means that he's the polar opposite of me, or settling as a Christian means I'm rushing into marriage just to say that I'm married. Settling for me looks like X, Y, and Z. I never thought that settling would be a really, really great guy with a great heart, but we just don't align on some things. I never thought that. And I know that's so like, okay, Cassidy, like, come on, like, that's really naive of you. Sure, it's naive, but at the same time, it's just truly seeing the best in everybody and never thinking that for a minute. Like, truly, I never did. And I experienced that recently where I, met this great guy, and he's incredible and he has a great heart, and I would love to be friends with him forever. Like, he's an incredible friend, an incredible guy. And at the root of it, we just don't see things the same way. We don't see things eye to eye. And it's that weird balance, right? Where you have to say, like, how do I talk to you and pursue a friendship with you while you think something else is happening? Like, that's the very clear communication line that you have to have with somebody in order to continue, because they could be thinking one thing while you're thinking another. And what really sucks is when you're in the position that somebody else is in with you, and you're like, wait, this is how they probably feel, and this is how I'm coming across. And so that really sucks. So seeing things from both sides, like, I totally get, but like, settling is sometimes it's just like, hey, we don't see things eye to eye on religion or faith or Christianity, or hey, we don't see eye to eye on finances, or we don't see eye to eye on how you're treating me, or I deserve better, or we don't see eye to eye on whatever it is. Sometimes those like little red flags can be an enormous sea of red flags. And I'll mention this again because I mentioned it a while ago in like a few different videos ago, but I was in a relationship where I saw little red flags here and there. I was like, okay, that's weird that he says that, and that's weird that he does that, and that's weird. Here's weird, that's weird, whatever. And I'm sure that I had red flags too. Like, I'm owning up to that. I am mature enough to know that I had red flags for sure. I don't think anybody can sit here and be like, I don't have any red flags. Like, sis, yeah, you do. Like, every person has red flags, even if it's like the person that you're with, that you're dating, that you're married, that your future husband is. That person will have red flags. It's just whether or not they're worth it to you to overlook, or it's worth it to you to pursue them beyond the red flag. Everybody has them, right? Like, one of my red flags would probably be like, I laugh too long at a joke. Like, once it's over, I'm being sarcastic, but like, for real, like, if you say something really funny, I'm gonna be laughing about it, and then like later I'm probably gonna bring it up again and still laugh about it, and nobody else is laughing about it. Another red flag of mine is I love communicating. I love texting. I love calling. I love FaceTiming. I love knowing that like you're thinking about me. I love talking to you. I love getting to know you more. Like, that is one of my red flags, is I love communication. Now, do I want to sit here and like communicate with you all day long? No, because I have a job 9 to 5. I have a life. I do things outside of social media. I do things outside of my job. I do things, with my family, with my friends, whatever. I'm not asking for that, but I am asking for like a healthy communication that's like, hey, like, he is interested in me. She is interested in me, and I want to get to know her more. So I'm pursuing her without her like wondering, like, is he pursuing me? I don't know what he's doing. That is a really important part. But like I said, I've been in a relationship before where I've seen little things that in the moment, if I would have shared with somebody, they'd been like, Cassidy, what? But I just overlooked it. I was like, you know what? It's just a little red flag. It's not that big of a deal. I'll overlook it because he's worth it. And the only problem with that is, like I said, if they're worth it, you can overlook it and continue. The only issue with that, or red flag, no pun intended, with that, is if you continue to look over the little red flags that keep coming by and being like, well, that's weird, and that's not normal, and he shouldn't have said that, and he shouldn't have done that, and he should have done this. When you overlook all of those little red flags, at the end of the relationship, when everything comes down to the wire and you have to decide whether you want to be in this relationship or not, or whether he's worth, settling for, in a sense, and he's worth actually being in a relationship for, when you step back and look at that, you're going to see nothing but a sea of red flags. And that is so scary, being the girl who has stepped back and been like, wait a minute, like, all these years. And to be honest, I didn't see that until after the breakup. I didn't see the sea of red flags until the breakup was final and until we went our separate ways. And I did a lot of reflecting and healing. Like, that porch out there has seen tears. It has seen angry conversations on the phone. It has seen vent sessions on the phone. It has seen so much and heard so much stuff. But it's also seen where I've been praying really hard about my ex, or I've been praying really hard about the breakup or healing. And I've literally like gotten on my hands and knees and been like, Lord, I do not understand what you're doing in this season. Like, I don't understand why I'm having to go through this. I don't understand why this is happening to me. I don't understand why I'm feeling this way about this person or about the situation or whatever it is. And the Lord has always been faithful every single time. He's always met me where I'm at, and I'm so incredibly grateful for that. But he's done so much healing in my life to where I can now go back and see like, okay, I see the reason why I went through that. It was
was all not for nothing.
But I can sit here and say that throughout all the reflection, through the prayers, through the journaling, through all that stuff, I was able to step back and be like, this is a sea of red flags. And to be quite honest with you, even to this day, there are things that I have not shared with my mom from the relationship because I know that she would be like, Cassidy, what? Not that it was a bad relationship, not that it was a toxic relationship, but again, there was a sea of red flags that every time that I share a little red flag with someone, they're like, Cassidy, that and this and this. I'm stepping back and I'm like, that and this and that and that, and it's a sea. And it's literally a sea of red flags. And that is my only advice and encouragement to you is if as a girl or, a person in a relationship, if you're like, okay, he does talk to me poorly, but it's okay. I'm going to let that go. And you know what? He does like make jokes about things that I feel really insecure about or that I feel really uncomfortable about, but it's okay because I know his heart. And you know what? Like, he's not close to my parents and he doesn't ever like find that a problem. And like, he doesn't ever want to be around my parents or want to be around my family, but like, it's okay because like, I don't see that as a problem. It'll come with time. And once we get married, it'll be fine. Okay, well, like, once you zoom out on those 3 red flags, there's red flags within those red flags, and you're going to be looking at an entire sea or forest or whatever the heck you want to call it of red flags, and it's going to be too late to where you're going to be like, well, I said I bypassed that one, and now I either have to take the whole forest of red flags and be like, okay, I'm okay with everything, or you can leave and be like, I deserve better, I want better, whatever. Again, it's all about what you feel comfortable not settling for in that sense, but whatever you feel comfortable with being okay with. Like, those red flags, you're going to have to wake up every day and choose that person despite those red flags. And again, we are not perfect. I'm not perfect. I know I have red flags. I'm impatient. I get angry sometimes. I'm a bad driver. I laugh too much at things that are probably not laughable to some people. Like, whatever it is, I have my own red flags and I know. And I'm an anxious person, right? And like, it's not easy to date me. And I'll be real with that. And that's like something I'll be very humble and honest about. Dating me is not easy, and I know that. And dating me comes with like, okay, I'm going to have to be okay with her anxiety. And sorry, I didn't like realize to kind of get emotional about that. But like, anxiety to me means I've been cheated on in the past. I've been degraded in the past. I've been in a very toxic relationship in the past. I've been, I don't want to say taken advantage of because that sounds wrong, but in a very surface level sense, taken advantage of and looked at in the wrong way and, X, Y, and Z. And so I carry a lot of that distrust into relationships, and I have really, really high walls, and I didn't notice that until recently. I went on a date with someone, and on the date, I was so nervous. I was sick to my stomach. I kept like taking nausea medication all day long because I was so nauseous. I was so nervous, y'all. Like, literally on this day, I cannot believe I'm telling y'all this. I was so nervous, and I was in my head the whole day because of how nervous I was. And it wasn't like I was nervous that like he was going to do anything because he's an incredible guy. And it wasn't like I was nervous that like I didn't trust him or anything like that. It's just the distrust that you carry from other men into these relationships. And that's why you have to be so careful with who you date and who you spend your time around and pursue, because genuinely you will carry that into other relationships forever. And also on top of that, you carry your purity into other relationships. Like, I know that one day I'm going to have to sit down with my future husband and be like, this is what I've done in other relationships, and be like, I hope that you're okay with that. And obviously, if he's your future husband, he will be okay with that because he won't be perfect either. But at the same time, like, you just have to carry that weight of knowing that one day you will have to not explain yourself, but you're going to have to be like, this is like, lay it all on the table. Like, I have not been perfect. I have fallen short. I have gone too far in some areas, and I'm not proud of it, and it's not my finest moment, but it is my grace story. It is something that I've been redeemed from and washed clean from, and I've turned from it. And so I hope that you can live with that and still want to pursue me through that. And that's a scary thought, right? Like, who wants to sit down with their future husband or sit down with their boyfriend at the time or whatever and be like, this is all that I've done? Like, lay all your cards out on the table, right? I'm gonna be like, can I hold a few back? Like, do you mind if I just don't talk about that with you for a while? But it's good to be but it's good to be upfront and honest. But at the same time, I do have really, really high walls and high guards but I do at the same time have a really high wall, and I really do have my guard up because I've been hurt before. Exiting a long-term relationship is not for the faint of heart because you're just afraid that you're going to spend all your time with this person, devote so much of your commitment to this person, fall in love with this person again, just to see it end. And that's really, really hard to tell yourself it's okay to love again, to tell yourself it's okay to date again and not feel guilty about it. At the same time, I have really high walls and I have a guard up, and I'm guarded because of the way that I've been treated before. I'm guarded because I'm afraid of men, to be quite honest. I have a really just anxious heart towards men, unfortunately, and I have a really hard time trusting guys. It takes a while for a guy to make me feel comfortable, and I can say on one hand, probably the amount of men that are in my life that I trust and that I know will protect me, and out of those men, probably 2 of them are my age, which is really sad, but that I know have my back through and through, and it has taken a while for them to get to that point, because I'm scared, right? And I'm scared that I'm gonna have to work at it again to fall back in love with someone, to start from the ground up, but at the same time it's exciting. And that first date feeling is like none other. I want to be sick, I want to throw up, and I'm super anxious, but at the same time it's super fun and it's flirty, and you get to be yourself in a sense without being so nervous, and you get to know the other person. That part is so fun because you get to like bicker and banter and get to know them, and like how do they like to flirt, and like I don't know, it is really fun, and it is really fun, and it is something that I will never take for granted. But at the same time, it's like you have to now, after that first date feeling, you have to come down back off of cloud 9 and be like, realistically, is this what I see myself in? And you have to be honest to yourself, you have to be honest to the other person, and you have to have open communication. And when you don't have that, it's really hard, and it can really take a toll on your mental health, and you just have to be open and honest, I think. But also, another part of it, which is hard for me, I have a lot of guy friends, on like social media and stuff, and what's hard for me is talking to them and not knowing, A, am I accidentally leading them on? And B, if you're casually dating, this is a part that like I'm having a really hard time with because I'm a girl, right? So like you take a girl out on a date, you date a girl, and the girl instantly thinks like, okay, if he's asking me on a date, like he's into me, right? Well, then, like, what else? Like, what comes next? Like, are you asking me out again? Am I planning the next date? Like, how does that go? Like, I've showed interest in you multiple times. I've said that I'm interested in you. I think I've said, whatever. And so it's just this, like, big game. But for me, what's really hard for me to grasp and wrap my head around is making sure that I'm not leading anybody on accidentally, but also that I'm being honest and respectful and honoring the casual dating scenario or casual dating scene or relationship, not a relationship, situationship, whatever you want to call it. Because at the end of the day, what I don't want to do is I don't want to be going around talking to all these men or talking, and going on first dates with all these people. Like, I'm not wired like that. I cannot do that. If you can, excellent for you. I love that for you. I cannot because A, I would get them confused so fast and embarrass the heck out of myself. I literally would be like calling them by the wrong name. I'd be talking about a conversation that I had with somebody else with you. Like, it would be so bad. But also I just feel like that's icky. Like, if I'm pursuing someone, if I'm into them, like, they're all that I think about. Like, I'm not thinking about another guy. I'm not thinking about pursuing another guy. Like, that's all that I have on the brain. And so I have to make sure that I keep my heart in check. But also, like, I owe it to that other person in a sense to be honorable and to be respectful. And that is what is so hard in this generation is you don't know, right? Like, you don't know whether or not somebody's talking to somebody else. You don't know whether or not that person is dating somebody or going on these casual dates. And you don't know if you're the only one. You have to go to bed at night not knowing that. And that will either keep you up at night or that'll send you to bed because you just don't want to think about it. One or the other. it's hard dating in your 20s. This is like my first time dating in my 20s, and this is hard. Like, this is like, I'm a beginner in this area. And what's funny is I am used to talking to somebody, dating that person, and then long term dating that person, right? Like, I'm not used to the casual dating aspect. I'm not used to, oh, well, I really do like him and he really does like me, but it's not the right time. So we're just going to go part ways. Like, I'm not used to that. I don't want that, right? Like, I want us to be like, okay, wait, like, are you ready? Yeah, I'm ready. Are you ready? Yeah, I'm ready. And then continue to date. Like, that's what I want. And I want to pursue that with somebody. But at the same time, sometimes you have to figure out things about each other. You have to take time to get to know each other. You have to have time and patience. And that's what the Lord's teaching me right now is like, you have to have patience, girlfriend. Like, to get to know somebody, to truly get to know somebody, like, you have to have time and patience on your side to truly get to know them. Because let me be real, you can think that you know somebody in 5 minutes. Like, I will meet somebody and I'll be like, oh my gosh, like, you're going to be my best friend. I already know we're getting along so well. And then probably like 5 or 6 months in, I never talked to the person anymore. We didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things, like whatever. And that's just life, right? Like, that's just unfortunately the way, the chips fall. But at the same time, like, getting to know a guy is way more important than obviously getting to know like a girlfriend or something like that. Because, and I say girlfriend is like my friend that's a girl, like I say it like that. But I say that because you are now, and this is another thing about dating in your 20s that I've had to realize, is you're not just dating for you're dating for your future husband, you're dating for your future family. And that carries a lot of weight. I wouldn't say pressure because I don't feel pressure by this, but it carries a lot of weight in the sense of like making sure that you pick the right guy, because it's not just you that you're worried about anymore. It's your family and it's your future family. It's your kids that you're thinking about now. Because I feel like, for example, when you're dating in fourth and fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, when you're dating then, all you're thinking about is, does he play a sport? He's super cute. I really want to date him. I want to pass notes in class. I just think he's all that and more. I just want to walk to, recess with him, classes to him. I want to make sure he knows that I like him on the playground. That's all that your little brain's thinking about. When you're dating in high school, all you're thinking about is, I really want to make out with him. How long do I get with him in the car? Is he play football? Is y'all sweaty after practice? I really want to kiss him. That's literally all you're thinking about. Now, as soon as like your 20s hit, you're really starting to think, do my parents like him? Do I like him? Is he a good guy? And all of a sudden, the feelings hit of like, can I see a potential family with this guy? Can I be raising kids with this guy? And that's where it starts to get real scary, because I've been in relationships before where I'm like, maybe I don't want kids. Maybe I don't want to get married. Maybe I don't want a family. Like, literally, I remember having conversations with an ex one time where I was talking myself out of all those things, and that is the number one thing that I've always wanted in life. I've always wanted to be a mom. I've always wanted kids. I've always wanted a big family. Coming from somebody who's an only child, I've always wanted kids. I've always wanted multiple kids. I wanted to adopt. I wanted to literally crack the front door open and leave it open for my kids' friends to come over. Like, I wanted to take anybody and everybody into my home. Like, I wanted to adopt. I wanted to be that mom, everything. Like, I just wanted that life. And what's so cool is that looking back now, I can see God being like, Cassie, like, that was you talking yourself out of your biggest dream in life because he was not the right man for you. Like, that was so not obvious to me at the time, but obvious to me now, that it's actually like humorous, because I'm like, okay, like, that was not the right guy for me, because all of my dreams, all of my aspirations changed when he was around. And truly speaking, this is my key takeaway of that story for you guys. The man that you're supposed to be with, the man that you are going to date, the man of God that, God has for you, will not change your life aspirations, will not change your goals, will not, talk down upon your goals in life, will not change the way that your heart feels about what you've always wanted in life, but instead they will heighten them. And it took me a really long time to figure that out, because after the breakup, I was like, God, I still do not want kids. Like, I want nothing to do with kids. And the Lord was like, really? That's kind of odd, because you've always wanted kids. You've always wanted to be married. You've always wanted a husband. And now all of a sudden you don't want a husband. All of a sudden you don't want kids. That's weird. And I'm not joking you, probably a month after the breakup, I had baby fever galore. Like, literally, I remember, I think it was Target. I was walking around Target by myself, per usual. And I remember walking past this kid, and she was in a stroller, like, the little girl was in a stroller, and her mom was pushing her, and her mom had stopped her, like, right in front of this, like, rack or whatever, and kind of had, like, turned around looking at something else. And I looked over at her, and I was so used to being like, oh my gosh, like, kids again, like, or whatever. I was so used to having that mentality. I took one look at her, and I was like,
I could take a chunk out of that baby. Like, that baby is so cute.
And we were like smiling at each other. I was like waving at her, like whatever. And the mom turned around, like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm just waving at your child. She's like, no, no. Like, she loves the attention. Like, it was so cute. And that feeling of wanting to be a mom, that desire of wanting to be a mom came back in that moment. And I was like, where the heck has that been? And I remember getting in the car and I was like calling my mom and I was like, Mom, like I just encountered this baby in Target and all of a sudden these like feelings of wanting to be a mom came back. And she was like, what? Like she didn't even know the desire had left my heart. I didn't see it as a red flag back then. I genuinely did not. I just thought like, oh, my hormones are off, or like, oh, like maybe it's like the medicine that I'm on. I had no idea that it was like that big of a red flag. Because even my mom was like, Cassidy, if I would have known that like you had felt that strongly about not being a mom, not being a wife, not getting married, she's like, I would have told you straight up something is wrong in that relationship. And to be completely clear here, I kept a lot of things from a lot of people, and even my best friend's soul sister, twin flame cousin, Sadie, I literally tell every single detail of my life to. She doesn't even know a lot of the stuff that went on, and I'll like tell her now. I'm like, oh yeah, like he said this or he did this or that relationship was really toxic because of this or whatever. And she'll look at me and she's like, Cassidy, if I had any idea that was going on, I would have not have been supportive as I was. Like I would have literally told you, Cassidy, you need to leave him. And I think that's why I didn't say anything, because I was so scared that people would tell me to leave him and I wasn't prepared to do that. Because here it comes, and it all ties back to, I think I was truly afraid of starting over with someone new. Like I genuinely speaking, did not want to go through the process of dating somebody again for the first time, going through all the butterflies, going through all the anxiety, going through the, well, does he like me? Does he not? Like whatever. It has to happen. That's just life, and you have to embrace it. And I remember sitting in the car driving to the first date that I had been on. I remember driving and I was like, Lord, like I just either want this to go super good and super well and we both walk away like knowing how we feel about each other and like it's just a really fruitful experience, and if it's not, just close the door and like we'll move on and it'll be fun, like allow me to not get attached, whatever. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this is crazy. I'm feeling all these anxious thoughts. I'm so sick to my stomach, whatever. And I called my sister. I say my sister, but she's like an older sister to me. And I called her and I was like, Erin, like I am freaking, y'all know Erin. I was like, Erin, I'm freaking out. Like I'm so nervous. I literally got chocolate on my shirt. Like I am just so all over the place about this. Like I don't know what to do, whatever. And she was like, Cassie, like chill out. And I was like, no, I don't think you understand. Like I am so nervous. I took freaking nausea medication. I took anxiety medication. I feel like I like need to go like sit down like somewhere and catch my breath. Like I'm panicking, so nervous. And she just sweetly, very gently reminded me. She was like, Cassidy, this is normal. This is real life. People go on first dates all the time. The experiences that you are having are probably heightened because of your anxiety, but the butterflies that people feel on the first date, that's real. What you're feeling is real. It's valid. You're literally just anxious and nervous about a first date. That's it. You're not having a panic attack. You're not dying. You're not, having a heart attack. Nothing crazy. You're just nervous about a first date, and every single person on the planet goes through that. And I was like, okay, you're right. You're definitely right. And that made me feel, in that moment, it made me feel normal. Like it didn't make me feel like my anxiety was fake, or that my anxiety was a burden. It made me feel like, okay, like maybe I'm spiraling out of control. Like for the first time in a very long time, I felt genuinely normal. And I was like, okay, this is what normal feels like. This is what a normal first date feels like. And yes, I might feel things a little bit heightened, and I didn't eat at all on the date multiple times, and that was super embarrassing. And hope you laughed about it now, because I was laughing in my head in the moment, but I couldn't say why I was not eating. Not because, the medication that I was on, which that had a little bit of a portion to play, and my freaking wisdom teeth. The fact that I went on a first date after getting my wisdom teeth taken out is absolutely wild to me. Like, granted, it was like 2 or 3 weeks after my wisdom teeth surgery, but still, I'm numb. I can't feel anything. I can't really taste anything. I can't open my mouth all the way. Literally, I'm sitting there and he's like, oh, try this piece of sushi or whatever. I'm like, okay, pick up like some chopsticks, go to put the dang thing in my mouth. I cannot fit it in my mouth because my mouth does not open all the way. Still, I'm still having issues opening my mouth all the way. And I'm like, this is really freaking embarrassing. Another reason why. And then later on, I'm like, oh, I still can't eat. I'm not hungry, whatever. He's probably like, dang, this girl's about to fly away. She does not eat. But in reality, no, I actually overeat a lot, and I love to grub out. I love to eat, and I just couldn't show it in that moment because I was so embarrassed, and I was just so nervous and like whatever. And I think that just comes with time. I think, like obviously they're going to see the goodness in you, and they're going to see like you for you, and you have to be open and honest about that. And that's one of the regrets that I do have, of like, I do wish that in that moment, that day, I could have been like, hey, the reason why I was so guarded, the reason why I was so nervous, not eating, not as talkative as I normally am, it's because A, I was so nervous, but B, like, it's a first date. You got to give a girl some slack. And it was very nerve-wracking, but also like, from my perspective, it's the first date that I've been on in a very long time, and I'm nervous around you. I don't have a lot of trust in men, and I have really, really high walls, and I'm guarded. And I wish I could have said that in like the anxiety part and all that stuff, but it was like, who wants to delve into that on a first date? You know, like, hey, I have a lot of baggage and I'm a very anxious person and you're probably not going to stick around for me, but you know, this date was really nice. Great getting to know you. Not ever going to see you. That part. Anyways, I think that in a sense, settling as a Christian can look different in many ways, right? Like settling can be in friendships. If a friend is not treating you correctly, but you're like, well, it's the only friend I have, so might as well stick around. Settling is in that. Settling is in relationships, like we just talked about. Settling can be in the way that people talk to you and overstepping boundaries. I'm going to say it again. Settling can look like overstepping boundaries and letting people walk all over you. I'm a very big people pleaser. You can ask anybody and everybody. If you ask me to do something and I want to say no, I will literally not text you back. I will not text you back. And it's not like I can't say no or I'm incapable of saying no. It's the fact of I don't want to say no. I don't want to hurt your feelings. So I will literally just not say anything at all. And people are like, hello, Cassidy, are you there? Why haven't I got a text back? Hello, are you okay? It's because I literally I don't want to hurt your feelings. That's it. And so I'm not doing it out of evil intent. I literally just don't want to crush your spirit. That's it. And it's hard for people to understand, but at the same time, it's like, it's real life, right? Like, people pleasing is a real thing. It's a real disease. I have it chronically. I have a chronic illness of it, really. And I think, but it is important to note that, like, settling can be like, hey, I'm not comfortable talking about this with you. I need to set up boundaries so that we don't have to have that conversation again, or we don't have to talk about that said thing again. Boundaries can look like, hey, you don't need to text me 24 hours a day, and I'm not going to text you 24 hours a day, and that's okay because I'm working. That's okay because I'm my own person and I have a life. That's okay because, you know, I'm not dating you professionally. I'm not dating you seriously, I guess, whatever you'd say to that. And I think that's where expectations come into play and communication comes into play, because exiting a long-term relationship, you expect like, okay, this guy's going to pursue me 100%. Like, this guy's going to talk to me all the time. This guy's going to whatever. And not that I want to be talked to all the time, but I would like a call every now and again. And I would like to be told that, like, okay, I am interested in you, even though, you know, we haven't, whatever. Like, all those things, I think, is something that you carry out of a long-term relationship. You have those expectations, but you're like, wait a minute, he doesn't owe me anything because we're casually dating. We're getting to know each other. It's, you know, it's a whole thing. But yeah, it's confusing and it's hard. And I don't know, never in a million years did I see myself dating in my 20s outside of a long-term relationship that I thought would last forever. But I'm glad that I am, and I'm glad that I'm learning those things about myself. And it's a learning process for sure, because I've learned so much about myself in this long process, and I've learned things about myself that I didn't know I needed to work on too. Patience being one of them. Like, Lord knows, y'all, I thought I was impatient, like, in the car when somebody cut me off, or like, oh my gosh, like, this is taking forever, or whatever. I genuinely thought I was an impatient person when it came to all that. No, sister. I'm impatient when somebody doesn't text me back. I'm impatient when God's like, just wait. Like, when I tell y'all, I'm a big signs girl. I'm a big signs girl, and I believe that God talks to me in signs, and that's controversial, because some people are like, don't ask God for signs because you're using him. Some other people are like, God doesn't give signs. Other people are like, that's not very Christian-like of you, whatever. Everybody has their own opinion about it. My personal opinion is whatever works between you and God works, right? Like, my entire life, God has given me random signs when I've prayed for it, when I've asked for it, when I've been, you know, consistent in prayer about it. One of the biggest signs in my life are monarch butterflies. Monarch butterflies are something that are very special to me, because every time that I see a monarch butterfly, I immediately know. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird to explain, but I had my Nana, my Pop, and my great Aunt Lynn pass away in a span of probably 3 years, probably. My Pop and my Nana were my grandfather, and this is all on my dad's side. So it was my dad's dad, my dad's grandma, and my dad's aunt. So really all that's left close family-wise on my dad's side is just my grandma. That's it. My dad's mom. And I had those 3 people die in a span of probably 3 years. And it was very hard for me. I was in high school when it happened, and it was very hard for me to process and to understand what was going on. But also I dealt with grief in a really weird way. I pushed people out of my life that looked like Jesus in my life. I went through a breakup. I went through a lot during that time, and nobody really knew why, because I didn't know how to explain it well. I was like, wait, I'm feeling these feelings. I'm anxious. I'm whatever. And I don't know why I'm feeling like this. I don't know why I'm grieving so hard. Like, was my first experience really grieving somebody, and it was really, really freaking hard. And that is where the Lord and I drew really, really close, because it is in the valleys that he is closest to you, I do believe. I believe that he walked with us through some of the hardest things in our life because that's what is drawing us closest to him. And I remember probably right after that, my grandma at the time had gotten some butterflies done by her neighbor. They used to like frame them and put them up and stuff. And we were like talking about butterflies or whatever, and she had mentioned that like she thought every time that she saw a butterfly, it was like her husband or her mom or her great aunt. And like telling somebody that like, oh, my great grandma died, or telling somebody that like, oh, my great aunt died, they'd be like, okay, but that's not as close as your grandfather. What they don't understand is like, I grew up playing with my great grandma all the time. Like, she was in her 90s, I believe, when she passed, and we spent a lot of time together. A lot of my childhood I remember with her. We were very close. And when we went over to her house, it was like all the adults were together, and then it was me and my nana. And we played, waitress. We played a lot of different things, and those are some of my fondest memories. And then my great aunt was more like my aunt, really. Like, she was young. I say younger, but she was like, my grandma's age, and they were really close. They were sisters, obviously. And I loved her. I loved her. I say her husband, but he wasn't really her husband. I don't think they were married, but I grew up calling him my uncle, and I loved them together. They had a really sweet story. They were really cool. I thought they were literally the coolest people ever. They rode motorcycles, and they'd come up like to see us riding the motorcycles from Orlando. Like, they were so cool. I loved them. And she wore leather jackets. She had all these rings on her fingers. Like, it was so cool. Like, I thought she was like bad A-word. Like, she was so freaking cool. And then my grandfather, so my dad's dad, I never got to know him when I was old enough to really care. And I think that's what like really hurts me now, is like I didn't really get to understand and like care enough because I was so young. I was in high school. I didn't care enough, I don't think, to really get to know them. And he was so cool. He was really cool too. He had obviously his demons, but at the end of the day, he was a great grandfather, and I have a lot of sweet memories with him too. Those three people, my grandma claims that she sees them in butterflies. Like, when she sees a butterfly that's like flying really fast, she's like, oh my gosh, that's Pop, and he is speeding on his way to come see you, or he's smiling down on you, or whatever it is. And I kind of have inherited that mindset too. I mean, anytime that I see a butterfly, I think of them three. But also, anytime that I see a butterfly, I feel content in knowing that I'm headed in the right direction. And I ask God a lot for signs. I'm like, God, is this the right person? God, am I supposed to be waiting on this person? God, am I supposed to be, pursuing this job, pursuing this relationship, pursuing this, doing this, whatever? I ask God a lot of things, and I ask God a lot of signs, and 9 times out of 10, I'll see a butterfly the next day. It really does happen like that. Or the other day, for the past few weeks, I've been praying for a sign. And sometimes when I pray for signs, I close my eyes. Don't ask me why. I close my eyes after I start praying for a sign. I'm like, Lord, please send me a sign that's so obvious to me, like, whatever. I literally will close my eyes and start praying, and I'm like, Lord, please, like, show me a sign about this. Like, I need to know, like, you're in this, you're not in this, I need to leave this, I need to stay in this, whatever. Like, please, Lord, send me a sign. The said sign. God, like, where are you? Like, are you even listening to me right now, God? Like, where are you going to send me a sign in any day? Like, okay, I guess I'm not. So now I know that about myself. So now I've started praying, Lord, please reveal me a sign that is so obvious, there's no denying it. And when I tell you, he is an obvious God, he is an obvious sign sender, very obvious, to the point where I got full body chills the other day. And later on, I'll share about what that meant to me and like the whole story and lore behind that, because it's insane. I'm waiting on God to fulfill that sign to me, but also like that is part of something that I'm keeping to myself and keeping, very sacred to me. But yeah, I do believe that God speaks in signs, and when we're willing to listen and we're willing to look around and be consistent in prayer, I believe that he will supply that to us. But that's something very intimate between you and him, that like you can't tell somebody else, like, God does not speak to you in signs. Like, okay, do you know him? Like, are you in our relationship? Are you hearing our prayers? Like, no, that's not for you. You should never be commenting on somebody else's thoughts or beliefs about their relationship with God. I believe that's very inappropriate. But I do believe in signs, and I believe in signs from God, and I believe that they're used sometimes to just remind us to be patient. And like I said, I'm not the easiest one to be patient. I'm not one to be like, okay, God, you said to be patient, so I'm going to be patient. All right, just checking up. How long? How long are we talking? Like literally that's me. Like I need to know like a day, I need to know a time, like whatever. And what's so funny about like the whole dating thing and stuff is so I turned 24 on Sunday and my cousin Sadie was in town and I love asking her what if questions. Like if you were like, what do y'all talk about the most? She'd probably be like, Cassidy asks me all these what if questions. She'd probably be like, Cassidy we probably talk about like what ifs all the time. Literally, I'm obsessed with what if questions. My parents, my friends, my family, I literally am always, even if I don't know you, I'm like, oh my gosh, what would you do if so and so walked in here right now? Or oh my gosh, what would you do if such and such happened? Or what would you do if they just cut you off right now? Whatever. I think it's my personal way of like breaking the ice, starting a conversation. I also think that I've come to the conclusion that I think if I ask you a what if question, not only am I trying to get to know you better, but I also think that if I ask you a what if question or questions, because I find myself doing this multiple times a day, I think that not only am I trying to break the ice, make it less awkward, have something to talk about, but I truly think that I want to get to know you better. And with Sadie, like my cousin, I've known her my entire life. Like we're best friends, but I still like to know, like, how would you react? Like, what would you say if so and so walked in here right now, or what would you do, or whatever? And she's like, you know exactly what I would do. Like that's how close we are. But with other people, I'm like, oh my gosh, what would you do if like such and such happened right now? Or like, what would you do if like the roof caved in? And they're like, why are you so excited to be asking me this stupid question? I'm like, I don't know. I just want to know what you do. Also, I think there's a level to it of like saying the worst case scenario and knowing what you would do and then finding peace in that. And like the anxiety of me would be like, oh, okay, like I'm in good hands, or like you would, like you would protect me, or like whatever. I think I even did that. Like the guy that I was on a date with the other day, I was like, what would you do if like such and such happened? And he was like, I don't, whatever. I'm like, no, I promise. Like, I promise I'm not being weird. I just want to know you better. I just want to know, like, what would you do in that situation? Like, what is your heart? What is your character behind it? But I think there's a time and a place for what if questions, because I've also been in a situation where it's very serious and I'm like, dude, what if? And Sadie's like, do not ask me that right now. Not the time or the place. But I do think that it's important to get to know the person that you're pursuing. And also going back like probably 20 minutes to the other point that I was making of like, now that you're in your 20s, you have to you have to prioritize a lot of things, bucket list items of a guy, checklist items of a guy that you didn't have to care about before. Like I said, in high school, you were worried about whether he was cute on the football team and if y'all could make out or not. That's just being real. I'm going to be honest. Whenever you're in junior high and elementary school, you're like, is he cute? Like, is he funny? Like, will he walk me to recess? Whatever the case is, that's all that you care about. Now in your 20s, what I realize is now you are dating with the intent of knowing whether or not they're going to be a good dad. They're going to make a good father. They're going to make a good husband. They're going to provide for you. They're going to protect for you. They're going to protect you. And that's something that I had to come to the conclusion of too, of like, now I have to not only be vetting them for me, but I have to be vetting them for my family and for my future family. Like, is this guy capable of being the father that I want for my kids, for my girls? Do I want my girls to have that example of a man in their life to kind of measure up other men to? That's a real and raw question. And, in all honesty, us girls, we can be like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know whether or not he likes me and he's judging me the whole time and I'm so nervous, whatever. Like, at the same time, he should be nervous too, because you have a scale of your own. You have the power to say no to somebody, to not go on that date with somebody, or to not pursue somebody after the first date or whatever. If you feel like things are off, you as a woman have the power to say no. If you truly do not feel like he's going to make a good father to your children, if you truly do not think that you want to raise sometimes daughters with a man that is like the man that you are on a date with, just say no. I'm fine, thank you, bye-bye. Like, exit the date, sister, or go on the date, have a good time, leave, and then be very, honest and open. Be like communicative. Be like, hey, I'm sorry, like, I just don't see things pursuing further with us, and I don't have the capacity to do that right now. That's it. That's all you gotta say. For me, it's hard because, again, people pleaser. But it's very real of like, do you want your daughters to be measuring up other men to that man that you're dating? And if the answer is no, the answer is bye-bye. Like, that's just real. You can't go on one date and be like, oh my gosh, I want to have kids with this guy, and like whatever. Yes, he can be very attractive. Yes, he can be like, oh my gosh, like dang, like he's, dad material, whatever. You can say all those things. I've said them before. I get it. But you can't genuinely know how good of a father they would be or how good of a husband they would be to you if you haven't spent time getting to know them. And that's where the patience comes into play. You don't want to rush into things and then be like, wait a minute, if I would have gotten to know you before, I think that if we would have slowed down a little bit, I think that whatever. So I think that part is important. But also, like, if he does not, and this is something I had to come to terms with too, is that if he's not pursuing you how he should be while you're dating, if he's not treating you how he should be when you're dating, why on earth do you think he's going to treat you any differently while you're married? When y'all get married, it's not going to flip a switch where he's all of a sudden like the perfect guy that you've always been dreaming of. Like, no, he's going to be settled into his ways, his routines, and everything to where all of a sudden he's like, oh, well, I've got her bag. Like, I've got this in the bag now, and like, we're married, so like, now I can relax. No. You should be a constant pursuant. What I've had to learn is that, yes, the boy should be chasing you in a sense. Yes, the guy should be pursuing you. You should not have to be convincing yourself that he likes you. You should not have to be convincing yourself that there's something there. You should not have to be convincing yourself, like, making up excuses like, oh, well, he's just busy, or, oh, well, he's just not calling me because, he's X, Y, and Z. And, oh, well, he's just not whatever because he's doing this, this, and this. We're not the excuse factory. We're not going to make excuses for his bad behavior. If he's not pursuing you, there's probably a reason for that. And I'm the biggest victim of that, I know. But at the same time, be patient, see it through. We can't just axe it because we think that we're impatient. We've got to see it through. If the Lord supplied us patience and told us to wait, we need to be patient and wait. And you're not going to get the perfect relationship in a silver platter right off the bat and exactly how it's going to be made. Sometimes things take longer to build up. Sometimes you're not ready for the relationship, he's not ready for the relationship, and it takes a while for the both of you to get to that conclusion and then be like, wait, like, I'm healed, you're healed, I'm ready, you're ready, so let's start dating. Whatever the case is, I think that it's important to note that, like, you shouldn't be rushing something, but also, like, if it's in the Lord's will, it's going to happen. Like, you can't avoid the Lord's will for your life. You can't. And you also can't outrun the obvious. And, you should not have to be convincing yourself that he's a good guy or convincing yourself that things will change once you get married. It's not going to happen. So just be mindful of that too. I've had to tell myself that of like, okay, the way that he's talking to me right now, the way that he's communicating, the way that he's treating me on this date, the way that, we're dating and he's not doing X, Y, and Z or whatever, that's probably going to be the case magnified in marriage. And am I going to be okay with that? The answer was no. The answer is pretty much always no. When you have to ask those questions, the answer is pretty much always no. But I think it's important to just kind of take record of that and take inventory of it, journal about it, process it, and be like, okay, this is what I don't want, this is what I do want, and continue dating and just see it through. I'm a big see it through person. I'm never one to be like, you know what, make a rash decision and just cut him off, never talk to him again, ghost him, whatever. Not one to do that. I'm also not one to be like, well, I'm just going to give up on, like, I'm not a quitter. I hate giving up. I hate not seeing things through, whether it comes to relationships, friendships, issues at hand, jobs, whatever it is. I always have to make sure that I gave it my all to make sure that I see it through. And sometimes it hurts and sometimes it goes on longer than it should have, but at the same time, I know that I can wake up every day without the regret or without the like, oh my gosh, like, would that have worked if I would have put my all, the woulda, shoulda, coulda. I never have to wonder if, right? Because I gave it my all, I saw it all the way through, and I know that it wouldn't have worked. Like, I just vented to you guys for an hour, but about literally everything under the sun. So that was kind of like an all-encompassing, like, don't settle while you're single. Like, just because you're single does not mean that you have to settle for the next guy that comes up or the next guy that asks you on a date, the next guy that slides into your DMs. Like, just because he's cute, just because he's Christian does not make him your guy. Like, I'm sorry, and I have to burst your bubble on that. Doesn't mean he's your guy. You will know by the fruit of his life, but you will also know by the way that he treats you whether or not he's worth pursuing and whether or not he's pursuing you. It should not be in question. Let's just say that. But yeah, I love you guys so much, and I really want what is best for your hearts, and I want what's best for your relationships in life. And if you resonated with any of that and you need to talk to somebody, please DM me. I'm here. Please reach out to a friend or a family member if you feel more comfortable talking to them too, but you deserve to not settle. You deserve to wait for God's best in your life. And I read a quote today that said, the waiting, I read a few quotes actually today. The first quote that I read was, the waiting season, giving the answer to wait by God is one of the sweetest answers God can give you, because it's saying that he wants your full undivided attention instead of giving you a like deadline of when that thing is going to happen. And I think I didn't mention this earlier, actually. I meant to mention this earlier with the whole like Sadie conversation. But back when Sadie was here, I had asked her, would you want to know who your future husband is, or when you were to find him, start dating, and to get married? Would you want to know those things? If God was like, I'll tell you right now who your future husband is if you ask, would you want to know those things? And Sadie was like, no, I don't want to know those. And I was like, really? Why? She's like, because I don't want to live in dwelling up until then. Like, I want to live my life until God brings somebody in my life that I didn't expect. And I was like, okay, that's true. I literally thought forever that I want to know who my future husband is. I want to know when I get married. I want to know when I have kids. I want to know all these things. But after that conversation with her, I was like, I don't really know if I want to, because I think I would be dwelling on that so much and wishing my life away up until that moment that I wouldn't fully get to live until then, you know? Like, I wouldn't get to see all the relationships fully out like I wanted to, or I wouldn't get to, you know, grow and learn wrong things. And like, honestly, like some of the relationships that you go through are lessons, even though they hurt, even though they're not meant for you, even though whatever, they're not the guy for you, whatever the case is, there's still really, really big lessons in your life that are growing you, right? Like these relationships, these breakups, whatever the case is, like all of these things are things that are growing you as a person and that are teaching you very valuable life lessons and that are teaching you things about you that you didn't know before. And so I would never give any of those things up in life. I would always make sure that like I follow through with what God's telling me to do. I would follow, like, I don't want to say follow my heart, but follow my gut on those things, and follow God's intuition that he puts on our hearts too, because that's really important to listen to. But yeah, I hope you guys like this episode, even though I literally was scroll brain the entire time. I have a feeling that most podcast episodes from here on out are going to be like that, like just scroll brain all over the place. And if that's the case, I'm so sorry. Literally, I have so much to say, and I just feel like I go off on like 5 different tangents. It's literally like we're on a FaceTime call right now, and so I apologize in advance for that. But I love you guys so much, and I'm proud and happy to be back with y'all and to genuinely just walk through life with y'all and to be honest and open and share my thoughts and things that I'm processing and that I'm working through and that the Lord is revealing to me in a safe and healthy boundary manner. Because obviously I don't want to overshare, but at the same time I want to share things that, you know, y'all have asked that are good questions, you know, as Christians to ask and as singles in their 20s to ask. So here's to not settling while you're single, and here's to waiting for God's best in your life. I love you guys so much, and I will see y'all on episode 9. Bye, y'all.